What's going on, everybody? Welcome back again to The Haunted Beard. My name is Jake. Thank you for joining me today. Well, it has been a little while, but I am finally back with another Saw series review. Today I'm going to be talking about Jigsaw, the reboot from 2017, and it's been a little while. Last few weeks have been full of a lot of just new content, new releases, stuff like that I've been wanting to get to you, but we are back on it. So today, let's get into Jigsaw. Here we go. So as bodies continue to show up around the city, each one points to a single suspect, John Kramer, also known as Jigsaw, who has been dead for 10 years. So if there's one word I could describe Jigsaw with, it would be tired. And it's unfortunate that this is what they came up with after having taken, I think, about 7 years off since Saw 3D. And I think it was good to kind of take a pause between Saw 3D and the next Saw. But really, it's tired because we more or less get the same exact thing that we have gotten now for, this is the 8th film in the series at this point. And we're introduced to some new characters. We get Detective Halloran, we get Logan and Eleanor, who are the autopsy technician surgeons, doing work on the dead bodies and whatnot. But pretty much this entire film is everything we've already seen before. It doesn't really do anything new. It doesn't inject any sort of unique twists or surprises. It just pretty much gives us the same old that, again, we have seen for now 8 movies. And I really just think that Jigsaw is a missed opportunity, because when you take this time off and you're now this many films into a franchise and you just play it safe, essentially, and just do exactly the same thing we've seen before, I mean, if now isn't the time to really take a risk and throw us a curveball and do something different, when is? But they don't do that. They just give us the same old stuff, and I think the film is worse because of it, and certainly it does not stick out amongst all these other Saw movies. And the plot here plays out very similar to all the other Saw films. We have 2 main storylines that we are following. You've got the opening, which you get a little bit of a police chase, and you're introduced to Detective Halloran. They end up shooting this suspect, and that triggers this countdown clock. Cut to 5 strangers in a room who are now playing the same old Jigsaw game. And they've got to make their way through the room by, figuring out the puzzles, solving the clues, getting out of the traps, and all that stuff. And so we are following Detective Halloran and Logan and Eleanor as they keep discovering these bodies around town. And we're cutting back and forth between that and the strangers in the room just trying to escape. And I think from a story perspective, what they decide to do here is really an odd choice and a really lame and uninteresting choice. Because of all these bodies that are being discovered, they look like Jigsaw kills, because they've all got these little puzzle pieces cut and carved out of them, right? And so there's kind of this central mystery to the movie to where, is Jigsaw really dead? Is he back? Did he not really die? Or is there some new copycat killer going around making the crime scenes look as if it was a Jigsaw killing? The main characters are all kind of suspicious of one another, more or less, pointing the finger, oh, maybe they're the new Jigsaw, oh, maybe they're the one killing everybody, and all that stuff. There is, I guess, a couple decent kills in it. I like one of the first kills where the girl gets injected with the acid. Kind of a nice, cool kill there. I will say, though, too, that the practical effects are pretty good, but specifically in terms of the autopsy scenes, when you got the dead bodies laying on the autopsy table, just the look and the design of them there look really good and really convincing. So, kudos to whoever designed those and did that. But when that is really like one of the main highlights of the movie, that's a pretty good indicator that there is not a whole lot here to get invested in. And as the bodies continue to pile up, Logan and Eleanor are taking them in and examining them and looking for clues, just trying to find out who the new Jigsaw killer is. And they find some blood underneath the fingernails of one of the bodies, and of course it belongs to John Kramer, right? I mean, like, obviously they were going to bring him back into this film, but it's like it's played off as like it's some big shocking surprise. And it's like, well, obviously there was going to be some connection or link to John Kramer, so that's just kind of a weird scene. We find out a little later on in the movie, in a scene that is just so outrageous and absurd, it's just hilarious, that Eleanor has an entire warehouse filled with Saw memorabilia.
Okay, red flags flying.
And she has all these Jigsaw traps in this warehouse. I mean, it's just, it's so ridiculous. It's like, oh, but of course she does, right? And the cops are tailing her because, I mean, obviously that looks extremely suspicious, but it's so ridiculous. You kind of just shake your head and laugh at it. Some of the dialogue here is just pretty terrible. Just some of the most, like, generic police dialogue. Some of the stuff here is just unintentionally funny. We find out there's a guy from the opening scene who was shot and was in a coma, and now his body goes missing. There's just a hilarious little scene where Halloran is just reaming out this cop in the hospital because he somehow allowed a comatose patient to get up and walk out of the hospital or get taken out of the hospital. And he's like looking at him and he's like, you had one job to do. And the guy's sitting there just like,
you got one job to do, you useless mother.
Now, if you've been following throughout the series, I, for the most part, have kind of disregarded sort of the logical inconsistencies with this because, I mean, I could make a whole review just out of those. But there is one in this movie that is just so mind-blowingly outrageous, I can't help but point it out. And so they finally decide to dig up John Kramer's casket to figure out, has this guy really been dead or has he faked his death for the last 10 years? And they dig up the casket, open it up, and it's the guy who was in a coma is in the casket. And it's just like, how'd he get in there? Like, could no one tell that the grave had been dug up, like, literally the night before? Because that'd be the only time they'd be able to get this guy into the casket. It's so outrageous. I just can't help but laugh at it. Later on, they find another body, and Eleanor and Logan are able to get some evidence off of it that it has some sort of like germ or virus on the body that is only found in like farm animals, and so they're able to connect the location to it to this farm, which of course belonged to Jill Tuck because why not? And so now they head over to the farm location, and everything ultimately culminates in that location between Eleanor and Logan and Halloran. Now, the story involving the 5 strangers who are been locked in this barn the entire time, eventually everybody gets killed off, which, by the way, there's a really cool trap that's set up with one of the guys with this huge, like, spinning thing, and he gets, like, you know, dropped down into it or whatever, and eventually gets cut up, and I feel like it was such a missed opportunity to have this really solid, gnarly kill, but, like, they kind of cut away, and you don't really get anything good from it, so it's like you kind of have this really ridiculous sort of trap mechanism that they ultimately, I feel like, was just kind of a missed opportunity there. Also, too, when the guy wakes up and sees the dead body, his freak-out scream is pretty hilarious. But anyways, they're down to the last 2, and then the reveal is Jigsaw. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, that is genuinely unexpected or surprising. But here's the thing with that. See, what they're trying to do is they're actually trying to set you up to convince you that Jigsaw hasn't been dead this entire time. So if they really go that route, it's a horrible choice. Because, like, really, you're now going to basically, like, undo everything since Saw 3 and, like retcon, you know, what, 5 movies? And so they try to convince you, oh, maybe Jigsaw's really not dead. He's been alive this whole time, which is just absurd. But then you would know that, okay, But if they didn't go that route, the only way that we could be seeing Jigsaw right now is if they jack with the timeline, which turns out that's exactly what they do, which we have seen before many times. And so it turns out that the two stories that are, coexisting throughout the movie, they're not happening on the same timeline. The timeline with all the people in the barn happened way before the timeline with the detectives and all the new bodies that are showing up in Logan and Eleanor and everything like that. Which, again, is like, how many times are we going to just jack with the Saw timeline? Like, this is literally the twist ending to multiple Saw movies at this point. And it's like, you just give us the same thing. And so, of course, Jigsaw's not really alive. This just happened before you thought it happened. And it's just like, what a disappointment.
Disappointed!
Ultimately, we get to the end, the confrontation between Logan and Halloran, and they are both trapped, and you think, because they're both trapped, neither one of them is the new Jigsaw killer, and so, you're kind of supposed to be on your edge of your seat, right? And, which one is it? What's going on? Where's going to be the reveal? And they each are in these, like, neck collar things with these laser knives, and turns out Logan rigged a thing to make it look like he got killed, only he didn't, and so now he gets Halloran trapped and makes Halloran confess that he's been a dirty cop and has let, guilty people go free and has put innocent people away in prison and everything like that. And so it turns out that Logan is one of the guys from the 5 people locked up in the barn that we think gets killed first because they don't ever show him. But that's him. And so he's been working with Jigsaw this whole time because we haven't seen that before, right? And it's just like, okay, yep, all right, good job on the originality there, guys. But anyways, so then Halloran gets killed, and I will give him some credit. The kill of Halloran is pretty cool, even if there is some CGI in it. All the little laser knives go through his head, and his head just like splits open like a melon. And then that's the end of the movie. So overall, it's just tired and a disappointment, and it's just they do the same thing more or less all over again. Nothing new, nothing original, no risks, no surprises. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Jigsaw. I think for an overall grade, probably going to be, a 4. I feel like that's maybe a little generous, but we'll go a 4 out of 10 for Jigsaw. So quickly, though, I just want to give a couple little thoughts because they've recently, at least fairly recently, announced that they're going to do another Saw movie, which will be the 10th film in this franchise, and they're bringing back Tobin Bell. And so I guess I don't know. We don't really know enough yet for me to have like a full opinion, but it just seems like, okay, again, you kind of run into that same issue. If you're going to bring back Tobin Bell, then obviously either, he hasn't been dead this entire time, or you're going to jack with the timeline again and just give us a bunch of flashbacks so you can bring him in here. And it's just like, guys, we're 10 movies deep. You got to do something new. You really got to shake this thing up and take a risk and give us something different. But anyways, we'll see what happens. So thanks for joining me on my review for Jigsaw. Next up is Spiral, and that'll be the final review in this series. Then I'm going to cap things off with doing an official ranking for this whole thing. So Spiral's up next. I've actually never seen Spiral before, so it'll be my first watch. So kind of curious about it, and we'll see how it goes. So thanks for watching. If you like content like this, you know what to do. This is what I do on The Haunted Beard, horror, thriller, movie content coming at you. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on The Haunted Beard.